6 years. That's all it took for 4 British musicians to completely redefine what rock and roll could be. From January 1969 to August 1975, Led Zeppelin didn't just dominate rock music, they were rock music. 6 studio albums, all of them #1. Over 200 million records sold, concerts so massive they had to invent new ways to count ticket sales. On March 29, 1975, Led Zeppelin became the first band in history to have 6 albums simultaneously on the Billboard chart. Not 1, not 2, all 6. They were untouchable, unstoppable, immortal. And then, in a single moment on a Greek island in August 1975, it all came crashing down. This is the story of the 6 years Led Zeppelin ruled rock, and why even gods can't stay on Mount Olympus forever. Act 1, 1969, The Explosion. January 12, 1969. A debut album by an unknown British band hits American record stores. The band's name? Led Zeppelin. Nobody knew what to expect. The critics certainly didn't care. Rolling Stone magazine barely acknowledged it existed. But something was happening. In record stores across America, kids were buying this album based purely on word of mouth. "You gotta hear this," they'd say. "It's different." Different was an understatement. Jimmy Page, former session guitarist and Yardbirds survivor, had assembled something unprecedented. Robert Plant's voice could shatter glass and seduce angels in the same breath. John Paul Jones was a classically trained multi-instrumentalist who could play anything. And John Bonham hit drums like he was trying to break through to another dimension. Their first U.S. show was December 26, 1968, in Denver, Colorado. By April 1969, they were headlining the Fillmore West in San Francisco, debuting a new song called "Whole Lotta Love" that would change everything. On June 28, 1969, they played the Bath Festival in England. The crowd went insane. Then came October 1969, Led Zeppelin II. This wasn't just an album, this was a declaration of war on every other rock band on the planet. Whole Lotta Love, Ramble On, Heartbreaker, Moby Dick. It hit #1 in both the UK and US. It stayed on the charts for 138 weeks. Led Zeppelin had gone from unknown to unstoppable in less than 12 months. The critics still hated them. The fans didn't care. They were too busy buying tickets to sold-out shows. Act 2, 1970 to 1971, proving they weren't a fluke. By 1970, the question wasn't whether Led Zeppelin could rock, it was whether they could do anything else. The answer came in October 1970 with Led Zeppelin III. Jimmy Page and Robert Plant had retreated to a remote cottage in Wales called Bron Yr Oer. No electricity, no distractions, just acoustic guitars and ideas. What emerged shocked everyone. That's the way. Tangerine, Bron Yr Oer Stomp. These weren't heavy metal anthems. These were folk songs, acoustic, delicate, beautiful. The critics were confused. The fans were divided, but the album still hit #1. On June 28, 1970, Led Zeppelin played the Bath Festival of Blues and Progressive Music to over 150,000 people, one of the largest UK crowds ever assembled. They mixed their acoustic folk songs with crushing electric blues, proving they could do both. Then came 1971, and with it, the album that would cement their legend forever. Led Zeppelin IV. No title, no band name on the cover. Just 4 mysterious symbols. Released in November 1971, it contained 8 tracks. One of them was Stairway to Heaven. You know what happened next. Stairway to Heaven became the most played song in rock radio history, not because of hype, not because of marketing, because it was perfect. Led Zeppelin IV sold over 37 million copies. It stayed on the Billboard chart for 259 weeks, nearly 5 years. By the end of 1971, Led Zeppelin wasn't just the biggest rock band in the world. They were the biggest band, period. Act 3, 1972 to 1973, Absolute Domination, 1972. Led Zeppelin was now so big they stopped doing interviews. They didn't need press. They didn't need radio play. They just needed to announce a tour date and watch it sell out in hours. In June 1972, they played 2 nights at the LA Forum. Over 36,000 fans. The shows were so loud, so intense, that the venue's sound system couldn't handle it. But Jimmy Page wasn't satisfied. He wanted to push further. Heavier, stranger, more experimental. In March 1973, Led Zeppelin released Houses of the Holy. The song remains the same, the Rain song, No Quarter, and the reggae-influenced Dear Macker. Critics called it self-indulgent, fans called it genius. It went to #1 anyway. Then came the 1973 North American tour. This wasn't just a tour, this was a cultural phenomenon. On July 23, 1973, Led Zeppelin played Tampa Stadium in Florida to 56,800 people. They broke the attendance record previously held by the Beatles at Shea Stadium in 1965. Think about that. Led Zeppelin had officially surpassed Beatlemania. 3 days later, they played 3 nights at Madison Square Garden in New York. The shows were filmed for what would become the Song Remains the Same concert film. Robert Plant was at his vocal peak. Jimmy Page was playing 3-hour guitar solos. John Bonham's drum solo in Moby Dick lasted 30 minutes. John Paul Jones was orchestrating everything like a mad scientist. They were untouchable, unstoppable, and they knew it. By the end of 1973, Led Zeppelin had played to over 500,000 fans in North America alone. They'd grossed over $4 million more than any rock band in history up to that point. But here's what made them different from every other massive band. They did it without radio support, without singles, without playing the game. Most bands needed hit singles to sell albums. Led Zeppelin's albums were the hits. Radio stations played Stairway to Heaven because fans demanded it, not because Atlantic Records paid for airplay. They'd proven something revolutionary. If the music is powerful enough, you don't need the industry. The industry needs you. As 1973 ended, Led Zeppelin stood alone at the summit of rock and roll. 4 albums, all classics, all #1, millions of fans. Total creative control. They were invincible, or so they thought. Act 4, 1974 to 1975, The Peak and the Fall, 1974. Led Zeppelin decided to create their own record label, Swan Song Records, complete independence, complete control. And to celebrate, they'd release their most ambitious album yet. On February 24, 1975, Physical Graffiti hit record stores, a double album, 15 tracks, 82 minutes of music. Kashmir, Trampled Underfoot, 10 Years Gone, In My Time of Dying. This wasn't just an album. This was Led Zeppelin showing the world everything they could do. It debuted at #1 in both the US and UK. Within weeks, it went platinum, then double platinum, then triple platinum. Remember what I said earlier? On March 29, 1975, Led Zeppelin had 6 albums simultaneously on the Billboard Top 200 chart. Physical Graffiti at #1, Led Zeppelin 4 at number 54, Houses of the Holy at number 123, Led Zeppelin 2 at number 154, Led Zeppelin 3 at number 169, Led Zeppelin 1 at number 171. No band had ever done that. No band has done it since. Led Zeppelin had reached a peak that seemed impossible to fall from. But the gods of rock and roll don't let anyone stay on top forever. August 4th, 1975. The Greek island of Rhodes. Robert Plant, his wife Maureen, and their children were on vacation. A rare break from the relentless touring schedule. They were driving on a narrow mountain road when their rental car crashed. Maureen suffered a fractured skull and pelvis. Robert shattered his ankle and elbow. Their children were injured but survived. Robert Plant was rushed to a hospital, then airlifted to London. Doctors told him he might never walk properly again, let alone perform. The 1975 US tour, which was supposed to be their biggest ever, was canceled immediately. For the first time in 6 years, Led Zeppelin stopped. And when you're moving at that speed, stopping is the most dangerous thing you can do. The momentum was broken. The invincibility was shattered. And though they didn't know it yet, the 6-year reign was over. They'd continue making music. They'd tour again, but it would never be the same. The golden age, 1969 to 1975, had ended on a Greek mountainside. The legacy of 6 years. 6 years. 72 months. That's all it took for Led Zeppelin to change rock and roll forever. In that time, they released 6 studio albums that redefined what rock music could be. They proved that heavy metal could be beautiful, that folk music could be electric, that a band could be massive without compromising their vision. They sold out arenas before arena rock was even a term. They broke attendance records held by the Beatles. They created songs that are still played on rock radio 50 years later. But here's what made those 6 years so special: hunger. From 1969 to 1975, Led Zeppelin played like they had something to prove. Every album had to be different. Every tour had to be bigger. Every performance had to push the limits. After August 1975, that hunger was replaced by something else: caution, mortality, the realization that even the biggest bands can fall. They'd released 2 more studio albums, Presence in 1976 and In Through the Outdoor in 1979. Both went to #1. But they weren't the same. The magic of those 6 years, the reckless creativity, the unstoppable momentum, the feeling that anything was possible, that was gone. And then, on September 25, 1980, John Bonham died. Led Zeppelin officially ended. But those 6 years, 1969 to 1975, those 6 years proved that 4 musicians with enough talent, ambition, and chemistry could create something that would outlive them all. Led Zeppelin didn't just rule rock during those years, they became rock. And 50 years later, we're still trying to figure out how they did it. If you want more stories about rock's greatest era, the albums, the tours, the moments that defined a generation, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Next week, we're diving into 1976, the year punk tried to kill arena rock and failed. This is high voltage rock history. Keep the volume up.